Hi everyone. Well, I just couldn't wait any longer. The Nimbus Simulations Huey still isn't available. We've been tempted by those fantastic screenshots and sound effects, but it still hasn't arrived yet. Now I do have the DCS Huey, and just recently I've moved over to X-Plane, so I was looking for something in X-Plane that would emulate or at least look the same as the Huey. And so after a quick look around on xplane.org, I came up with the AB412 by X-Trident, and it retails at $35.95 and looks to be the closest thing to an old style Huey, as it uses the same bodywork as the original. The AB412 certainly doesn't have the thump of the blades or the same low harmonics that the old Huey does have. But we have to remember this is a modern day version of the same thing. Now, if you've been looking at the graphics while I've been babbling on, you might notice that out the back of the helicopter was a dark flume of black smoke. Not sure that that should actually be there, or if that's an artifact of my own graphics system. Now as we go inside this AB412, just look at the detail of this cockpit. It is absolutely outstanding. With the Oculus Rift, it's one of the best views of a helicopter from the interior that I've had. Also on the outside shots, you might have noticed the way the sun moved on the paintwork. It really is an outstanding job of rendering on this machine. Now the AB412 has been around for some time really in X-Plane. I think it goes back to X-Plane 9, but has actually been upgraded as each version comes out. But just look at this detail. Now as usual with any of my videos, here's the river run using the Orbix software, and it's a very easy helicopter to fly. It's absolutely ideal for a beginner. The autopilots look after everything, and I'd certainly recommend it even as a starter helicopter. You don't have to mess around with all the electronics and the navigation. You can just literally take off and fly around, and it performs amazingly well. Now we're still having a few problems with the Orbix software. We've still got buildings floating up in the air, and I'm hoping that there'll be an update soon that will correct this abnormality. I think it's the mesh that's wrong, or the placing of the buildings in height is not correct on a number of items, but it's a fantastic piece of scenery to use. And so after the river run, it's back to Shoreham Airport, my favourite airport. You can see here as it lifts off, it's very steady, and it is quite an easy helicopter for the beginner. It has a neat little aerial on the front that you can actually use for lining up on any of the lines on the runway, and that just helps you maintain pointing the helicopter in the right direction when you're flying. So we're bare left here, and we're head up towards the Downs and follow my usual scenery route towards Brighton. It's handy using the same scenery, as you get a good idea of any frame rate issues or CPU issues. Now as we come down here, we're going to bear right on what is my version of the Mach loop. Well, certainly for helicopters a lot slower, and it's a fantastic turn into a little gully here. And then as we come out the gully, we'll go up over the top and then drop down and then head towards Brighton. Now this original helicopter, the AB412, actually dates back to around 2014, so they have continually updated it. We're on version 1.6 at the moment, and I found a review on X-Plane Reviews by a chap called Stephen, which I'll include a link in the text below, because he did a fantastic job then, and I think he's continued to update the review as more and more features have become available. But it's certainly worth a look, so do click on the link and have a look at the review that he did. He goes into such great detail, much more than I'm ever going to do. But I will include a list of the added features in the comment section below, so you can have a look. So here we are, we're coming round on Brighton Pier, I noticed the other day that when you actually fly along the end of the pier, that the amusement section is a bit weird. There's one or two textures there that are sort of flashing on or off, and as I mentioned earlier, I'm still getting some texture problems with the True Earth South, and I hope that all of those will be sorted out in the next release. Here we are, we're approaching Shoreham Airport at the moment, and this is a classic error, I'm going to say, for helicopter pilots. It seems to be quite a good approach. I've got a reasonable speed on here at the moment, but it does show the flight profile is actually well done on this helicopter, because I actually get to the point where I snatch at the collective as I lose forward speed. The helicopter will get into low air and then actually sink quite quickly. Now this helicopter has enough power that you can snatch at the collective and get it out of trouble, but really I've got to go back and start practicing my circuits and my approaches. There was a time when, certainly with the Dreamfall helicopter, my landings were on flat screen or Oculus would be pretty much textbook, but I think I've got a bit lazy recently, and I need to go back and practice a bit more. Maybe stick with one helicopter for a while would be a good idea. But again, as we come in to where the helipads are here, losing that forward speed, again, it will gradually sink and you snatch at the collective. This is a prime example of what I'm finding with the Oculus and the flat screen though, is that when I actually do get round to where the landing pad is, on a flat screen I'm oscillating backwards and forwards. I'm finding it very difficult to just go in and put the helicopter down and judge the height and the speed. When I've got the Oculus on, just don't seem to have that problem. So disregarding the resolution and everything else, the sense of actually judging height and forward speed when using the Oculus for me works very, very well. But I do enjoy turning up the graphics and having a look on the flat screen and seeing what it should really look like. Let's hope by next year that somebody's got a 3D headset that's going to give us some good resolution and work on a reasonable PC. So here you see I've come in for an approach, I've overdone it, start seesawing, backwards, forwards again, not quite got it, make the choice, I'm going to plonk it down and then just settle it afterwards. This yo-yo effect for me has got worse now I've gone back to the flat screen doing some videos. With the Oculus it just doesn't seem to happen, as I mentioned earlier. And so this has been more of a fly around than an actual review, but it only leaves me to say thank you for watching.